Luka Dončić is reportedly supportive of the vision of Rob Pelinka going into the summer. But how much flexibility does that actually give them, and how much time does Pelinka have? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always going to be free for you, never locked behind a paywall, whether you're getting your podcast via Apple, whether you're doing it through Spotify, whether you're one of the 37,000 plus subscribers to the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel. No matter how you're doing it, you're part of making the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in any known universe. I'm Brian Kamenetsky with Andy Kamenetsky. Been covering this team for nigh on 20 years. For the LA Times, for ESPN, for The Athletic. And I want to tell everybody before we get started, Andy, talking about Luka Dončić and his support of the current plan for the Lakers, talking about where they might go over the course of the second half of the season, and talking about weird stars with weird burner accounts. I do want to tell people that today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. You can have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Andy, Luka is the most important thing for the Lakers. We've talked about LeBron. We've talked about what they're going to do over the course of the summer and this and that. But the person they need to keep on board with what they're doing is Luka Dončić. And at least according to ESPN's Dave McMenamin, so far, so good.
Yeah, we spent a lot of Tuesday's show talking about the same report from Dave McMenamin that got a lot of attention because of the reported, openness that the Lakers would have welcoming LeBron back for another season if it was mutually decided upon, if the factors were to everybody's agreement, yada, yada, yada. But, and obviously with LeBron, there's so much that goes into the planning and all the things that we discussed, a lot of reaction to it, people agreeing with things we said, disagreed, whatever. But what is interesting about it, though, and I guess in hindsight, maybe this is where we should have began, given, as Brian said, the importance of Luka. There's a paragraph in Dave's piece that said, quote, "A source familiar with Doncic's thinking told ESPN that LA's deadline approach with, quote, adherence to discipline and focus on the, quote, long-term picture was supported by the 26-year-old star. He has not pushed the team to add a superstar level co-star for when James is no longer on the roster. And that could be taken a couple different ways. It could mean with LeBron still on the roster to basically have somebody there in the wings for a seamless transition. It could mean when LeBron is gone. It could be open-ended in terms of when LeBron is eventually not on this team because he's in his 40s. That's going to happen at some point. It's open-ended when that would be. But the two details that stuck out that I think are extremely important, we'll get into it, is A, support for the vision that has been explained to him so far, and also the idea of not pressuring for a specific superstar type addition, because I think that also can potentially lend Rob Pelinka some flexibility that's important in the way he goes about building, moving forward with Luka.
Yes, I agree to some extent. I think the support here, it's like there was no giant swing for the Lakers to take with what they had available to them at the trade deadline, for the players that were available for what they could get at the trade, who was available for what they had. There was no transformative move for the Lakers to make. They did about as good as they could do. They moved, Gabe Vincent for Luke Kennard. That was about as good as they were going to do. with their lack of picks and all that kind of stuff. So that part of it, like, I think Luka is supportive of the vision, which I'm sure was explained to him. Also understands there wasn't really anything they were going to do at the deadline. And
well, that's an assumption, by the way, really quickly. That's an assumption that Luka was being reasonable, because just because that is the case doesn't mean that a star will be reasonable, because we've seen stars over the years not be reasonable.
This is kind of where I'm going. I think all reports are that, from the time that Luka has arrived in LA to where he is now and where the team is now, that Luka has felt like the team has treated him well, that he feels supported, that he feels like they have a plan, that he feels all of that stuff. I am not surprised in the slightest that Luka, however it gets to Dave, through Luka's groups, through the Lakers, however it is, that Luka is expressing support for where the team is now. He's been here for a year. He just signed a big extension that is set up for him to be able to sign an even bigger one in a couple years. It would set off massive alarm bells if the answer was anything other than what we've seen here. So, okay, it's good that it's not bad news, but to me, the bigger thing is, like, okay, he's not putting pressure on them to pick a different star or go get X, Y, and Z. Again, that's good. It also could mean, like you say, because he assumes they'll go out and try to get someone and doesn't need to say it, or understands too that there's no point in publicly putting pressure on them to, you have to go get this guy. There's just none of that makes sense to me from a sort of politics standpoint. I don't think it's productive, and I think his group understands that. None of it means that he thinks, that the Lakers should think they have anything that even comes to sort of infinite time here. I think they need to show competence. I'm not saying you were saying that, but they need to show competence, and they need to show it pretty quickly, because the level of confidence and cooperation, if they don't do well this summer and then don't do well at the deadline next year and all that kind of stuff, that level of cooperation and comfort could go down very quickly.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, to me, that goes without saying. I mean, if things don't go well, Luka is going to grow more unhappy. Like, that's...
my point is, I don't read a lot into the stuff that was in that report.
No, I'll tell you what I read into it is that if you take it at face value, it means Luka has been presented with a vision, and Luka thinks the vision makes sense. That's the piece of it that I think actually matters. The idea that I'm sure Luka has been told, this is the way we're going to go about team building. We are looking for these type of players to put around you. These are the type of players we think will be available. This is how we think we can try to go about getting them. And Luka hears those details and says, that makes sense to me. Like, that first and foremost, because you and I covered the Lakers when Kobe went on the radio tour with the trade demand and, was telling everybody that would listen that he wanted the F out of the Lakers. He would play on Pluto before he'd return for another season. And among the conflicts there was he did not believe in the vision that the front office had for him. So this does not mean that everything is copacetic between now and 2036. Just keep expecting Luka to be here for the next decade. But this is, again, assuming you take everything at face value from Dave's report, and for what it's worth, Dave's pretty good at this stuff, it means that he is on board with the way they're going to go about doing this. And that is an important first step when you're trying to have everybody in lockstep. And again, just because there wasn't a big move to be made at the deadline, for example, you and I kept telling our viewers and listeners for 2 months leading up to the deadline.
most of a year.
Right. But that doesn't guarantee that stars that are used to being catered to are going to be reasonable. Like they're two separate things. So in that sense, I do think it matters. It's not it doesn't mean that Rob Pelinka should put his feet up on his desk and say problem solved. But I
think all it shows, and to that extent I agree with you, it's not, at least at the very least not bad, is that Luka is not irrational. And that Luke is both not irrational and that he is not seeking drama, and he is not seeking to outwardly put intense pressure publicly on the Lakers. But, and there are a couple buts here that I think are important. Plus, an interesting kind of second half scouting report from our friend Tom Ziller. We'll get to in a second.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Drink, and welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best, which might be your sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5 Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors and something for everyone with that zero sugar boost. The flavor I'm drafting, peach mango, ripe peach flavor on the first sip. The mango adds tropical depth, a little sweetness. It's got a slightly richer mouthfeel than citrus flavors, though I do love me some clean citrus. I got to be honest. But the peach mango, it's got that balanced tropical blend. You maybe add a little lime to it, get a Frank Ocean vibe going. Mango, peaches, and lime. Sweet life. If you know, you know. I'm also really open to the watermelon and the blue raspberry, but the peach mango, that is my draftee. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots, available at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon.
The part that I think is significant here, Andy, is just that a lot of fans will, I think, look at what you're talking about here as sort of, and I agree with you. It's a nice starting point to know that Luka is low key. He is not, at least at this point, this early in the relationship, looking to create drama, create headlines, and all that stuff. And we have seen that with the Lakers, that there are stars who will do that. There are a lot of people who think this is what LeBron does for a living. And it's a nice contrast. Fans should also understand that Luka did put pressure on the Mavericks, and that he is going to put pressure on the Lakers. And, this, I think from a fan standpoint, is good, because fans want this team and they want action and they want to move, because while Luka is going to turn 27 soon, which is right in his prime, what we are starting to see in the NBA is that you don't have endless amounts of time. You got to go and you got to do things quickly. I think the Lakers are going to have a tall order to put a title team around Luka this offseason. But what they can do is show that they can execute on this plan that they're selling him. And that step A can lead to a step B. And we'll see. We saw the comment that you put up on the chat for those watching live on YouTube, that Luka seems to have more confidence in the front office than Lakers fans do. So we'll see how that goes. I just don't see it as anything other than kind of what you would expect Luka to say. And so no news, I guess, is good news.
See, I disagree only in the sense that I don't automatically expect stars and front offices to be on the same page. I don't automatically expect to hear tranquility or copacetic or synergy.
I'm talking about this situation. This is what I would expect for the Lakers and Luka in the context of where they are at this point in their relationship. This is what I would expect for this.
Fine. Well, then let me say why I think it matters beyond whatever you think of it. I guarantee, and we've seen in that one comment that you highlighted, that they do not trust, fans do not trust this front office. we have expressed our distrust in this front office. But guess what? The only opinion of the front office that actually matters jack bleep is Luka's. Like, it doesn't matter. In the end of the day, it does not matter what we think of it, what other NBA media think of it, what Laker fans. What matters first and foremost is what Luka thinks of it. And you are correct. This offseason is the testing ground for actually executing a plan and like actually acting on the thing that you present Luka in the PowerPoint or whatever. But again, the first step is getting everybody right. The first step is getting everybody on the same page and just knowing that Luka's vision for the type of team that you put around him matches the front office is a necessary first step. And the other reason, really quick, the other reason though that I think this matters, and the detail about not demanding automatically the superstar edition or demanding player type X, I think is important because we have seen, most recently with the Russell Westbrook trade, which as much as you and I have emphasized, we will put equal blame on Rob and Jeannie for that because ultimately they are the ones who signed off on it. I don't care how much pressure LeBron and Anthony Davis reportedly put on them. If they thought it was a bad idea, they should have said no. But the fact remains, those guys did put a lot of pressure on Rob and Jeannie to make a really terrible decision. So not having that type of pressure matters. On the same token, there is a lot of reporting that Rob Pelinka went so aggressively after Mark Williams, despite all of the medical red flags that showed up even brighter than they had expected when they saw his physical and eventually rescinded the deal. They might not have done something that aggressive in that context if they were not in a type of hurry to show Luka, hey, we'll do whatever you want, man. This is our team. And the trickle-down effect of that has actually led to Dalton Connect's value going down around the league and internally. Like, there's been a trickle-down ripple effect on Dalton, and that has hurt the Lakers.
Sure, that was either they jumped the gun on something that they shouldn't have, or they should have let the deal go through and play. But I mean, I'm just
saying, I feel like that type of pressure not being there can be helpful. It doesn't. I think
I think that's a reasonable.
It doesn't equal a lack of urgency.
I would say. I don't. I think what I'm saying is I don't necessarily equate those comments, that were passed through, and the sort of being on board with the plan, so to speak, with trust and confidence and whatever in the front office. I do not think those two things are the same. I think you can be on board with what it is, recognize that there's no currency in making public demands for go get me this star. They know exactly what kind of player Luka wants, and they will go out and try to get those players. Luka does not need to say it publicly. He does not gain from saying it publicly because it makes it harder for them to go get those guys. He doesn't. There's no benefit to Luka to doing it that way.
Superstars often do the thing that isn't beneficial to them.
Right. So the fact that Luka is not doing the stupid, irrational thing that superstars sometimes do is good. I just don't think it's that meaningful because, again, I never expected Luka to do that. If he wants Giannis, like, let's just say, and I'm not saying he does, I'm like, don't aggregate. But let's just, if that was the thing that he wanted most and really wanted Rob to make it happen this offseason, he would not say it out loud. He would not tell the media. Team Luka would not do that.
I don't know, but
maybe a different star would. But I do not think that is how, in my opinion and in my read, that this is how they would handle it.
Well, if nothing else, like I said, I think it is significant because given the distrust that so many other people have in this front office, it may be reassuring for them as they envision Luka eventually deciding he wants to get the hell on up out of there, that at least thus far, he believes in what they're doing. Like, that is not insignificant. You can't have this.
I'm not saying, but my point is, I think it just depends on how you define some of these terms. And, how much belief does he have? How confident is he? I don't think you can gain much from those comments. Just my reading of those things is they are anodyne and designed to, not rock the boat. And behind the scenes could be a different story. It could be they're in wait and see mode. It could be that we feel good now, but everybody knows the clock is ticking. I mean, like, we can talk about this in the next segment, but like there's so much going on. Like we talked in the
I don't want to belabor this past.
No, but it's not belaboring. It's a different point. Like there's so much going on with change in the organization. We talked about it in the short show on Wednesday afternoon. Like, I think that they have, if I have to guess, and again, I'm guessing on all these things, they probably are very excited at the prospect of the Mark Walter regime. They can look at how the Dodgers are run, and that like guys are, taking a little bit less money, leaving good situations to come play. Like, people want to play here because everything about that organization is first class. It's a jewel franchise that is now being run like a Tiffany franchise. Sure. The Lakers are a Tiffany franchise that have been run more like the jewelry shop that you see at the mall. And so I think in
Diamond L's.
Yes, Daniels, something nice places to get jewelry, not Tiffany.
Forever 21.
Claire's. So my point of this is, I think if you're looking for places that Luka probably has a lot of confidence going forward or feels good about the general direction of the franchise, I think ownership is absolutely somewhere where I would say, yeah, they probably can look at that and say, we feel good about it. That to me is different than the looking at the front office, but there's just so much change that is on the horizon for this team that, I just, my reading of Luka and his group is that, it's kind of wait and see.
Okay.
And what this looks like in 6 months could be similar to what it looks like now. And it could be radically different. I mean, that was sort of the point you were making on the show. Like, there's a lot of space in between those things. So one thing we do know is they will be building around him as aggressively as they possibly can. How good are the Lakers? How good do other people think the Lakers are? What is this team's ceiling? We'll tell you next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of running a business and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. And if you are ready to make your workday smoother, keep customers connected without the headaches, Quo makes upgrading your setup easier than ever. Having calls, texts, and voicemails in one clean view keeps everything organized, helps you stay responsive, and being able to share one team number makes it so much easier to ensure nothing gets missed. Make this the year where no opportunity, no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Locked on Lakers is also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, the inbox is overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. So when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not out there just hoping the right candidate for your litany of front office and scouting jobs stumbles across your post. That's me kind of wishful thinking, I'm sure. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and actually more time interviewing the candidates who check all your boxes. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of Locked On Lakers will get $75 in sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support your show. This one, Locked On Lakers, by saying that you heard about Indeed right here on Locked On Lakers. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Among the many, Andy, NBA writers that you and I both enjoy is Tom Ziller. For a long time, kind of wrote centered around the Kings, and now has been writing an independent Substack newsletter for a few years. And it's a great daily subscriber that I certainly enjoy. He's kind of doing sorting teams out, playoff contenders, title contenders, all these other things. What he wrote about the Lakers is, to me, kind of interesting. He files them under playoff contenders. Our next tier of 6 teams are those who don't have legitimate title hopes, but are aiming to finish in the top 6 in their conference and avoid the play-in. The first among those teams is, yes, the Lakers. I'm ready to announce that finally I don't buy this team as a title hopeful. The defense is just simply not going to be passable enough to beat 3 of these teams in the West. I can't find a realistic first-round matchup I'd pick them to win unless they somehow climb to the 2 seed, which, as he notes, is not going to happen, but they've been resilient enough to land a top 6 seed and avoid the play-in. I think broadly, it's fair to say, and you'd agree, that they are not, because unless something changes, a team that anybody would pick to win a title.
No, we said from the beginning of the season onward, they're not an inner circle title contender. They are a good team. They're not a great team. The reason they're not a great team is they have flaws that are very easily exploitable, and the league has figured out how to do it. And most of those flaws are impossible to paper over internally. I don't care what the schematics are. You're not going to become more athletic from your schematics.
No, and there's you can't do
can't become faster.
No. So they've got some issues. The resilience to stay in the top 6, I think, is important. I think the idea that, the Lakers are where they are without having any meaningful time with their 3 best players healthy at the same 152 minutes for the 3 of Luka, Austin, and LeBron the whole season.
To put this in perspective, and this was a stat I landed on that blew my mind when I was going through the 152 and trying to find a way to contextualize this. 152 minutes total this season for Luka, Austin, LeBron on the court together. Drew Timme has played 150 minutes for the Lakers. Drew Timme, 4th string, 2-way contract center who didn't even start the year with the Lakers, has played as many minutes basically as the Lakers' top trio. It is kind of a minor miracle that they are still in this top 6 mix.
Like to remind people, Drew Timme wasn't on the team at the beginning of the season. So what I want to do for the short show on Thursday, by the way, we're getting some interesting and very much appreciated nominees for what we might name this thing, so we can stop calling it the short show or whatever it is. So we appreciate that. Keep them coming, and we'll come to a decision and thank you publicly in the next few days. But I want to do a short show about what is the most optimistic view? Not crazy, but you don't have to totally jump off the deep end, but okay, here's the reason to believe in the highest end for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I do think the idea that they're sort of I'm not sure that wouldn't be favored is the same thing as, not believing they could win a couple rounds. Like, I do think that people might possibly be underselling what the team's ceiling is because they've looked so bad when they lose. But given the fact that they should be healthy for the first time this season coming out of the break, assuming Luka can play.
I was going to say, we don't even know if 2 starters are going to play on Friday.
I am committed to the idea that Luka is going to be okay and that he simply didn't want to say for sure whether or not, because if he can't play, once again, the front office needs to do and the coaching staff needs to do a better job of managing expectations and not telling us that he's going to be okay, because that would be like we're into our 3rd week of Luka hamstring watch. That is a separate question.
Well, this gets back to why I said I felt like Luka would be doing himself no favors and the organization no favors by playing in the All-Star game. They're not damn sure he can play on Friday. Plus, we don't know how DeAndre Ayton's knee glaucoma is healing up.
That's true. I'm
just saying 2 out of 5 starters, we don't even know if they're going to be available.
If you ask a lot of people right now, they don't want DeAndre Ayton playing anyway. Well, so addition by subtraction, depending on who you're asking. But Andy, I am here I've not heard different yet as we creep up to Friday. I'm going to assume that Austin's minutes limit is going to be over and he can start again. I'm going to assume LeBron is okay. I'm going to assume Luka is going to play, and I'm even going to assume that Ayton is seeing out of his knee again, and everything is okay. We don't know what that looks like because that slots Rui in a different spot. That slots Jake in a different spot. That slots Vando in a different. Like everybody gets to play at a level that is more appropriate for their station. Marcus Smart can, you don't need Marcus Smart to do offense stuff as often when you have the whole architecture there. Like, I think it is possible to say the Lakers are not an inner circle title contender, like you say, while also saying it's also possible they're being a little bit undersold, at least for what their potential could be in the second half.
I'll say this much.
You may be good, Andy.
I'll say this much. You may be right, but I don't even think it's fair to say that it's being undersold because, truth be told, what you're talking about may be the case, but it's all wish casting because we have not even seen enough of the evidence to properly say they're being undersold. Like everything you're talking about is pure projection. Like even the idea of if you've got Luka and LeBron and Austin Reeves, that's always going to give you a puncher's chance. But the reality is we've seen a limited version of those 3 together, and the 3 of them together, the flaws have been the thing that we've talked about all season. Like, I'm just saying
you are correct.
Yeah, I mean,
you're right.
Which again, I want to emphasize that does not mean that you're wrong. I just don't even know if underselling is the right way to put it because, like, here's an example. I think people are underselling the Pistons basically because they're too young. They're too young to make serious noise in the playoffs, even though they're kicking the bleep out of everyone they play and look real in the same way last year people did with the Thunder. Like they were too young, or the Spurs. Like that to me is underselling. Okay. With the Lakers, it's not believing beyond what you've seen. And again, those non-believers may turn out to be wrong. But there is a lot that needs to reveal itself before I even think you could start getting to a place where, man, people just aren't taking the Lakers seriously.
Well, Andy, this is where we will head for the short show on Thursday afternoon, because whether you want to call it projection or wish casting, I'm a genie in a bottle, whatever it might be, because we're gonna be optimists and we're gonna feel good for at least one afternoon before they take the floor again, and we're told that none of their players are available and Luka's not available and everything looks terrible again. I hope that doesn't happen. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. Did need to remind you about the Everydayer Club. You can join that. It's $5 a month, $50 a year. And that gives you access to the Discord channel where Andy and I hang out. Other Locked On hosts are there. And of course, ad-free delivery of this very program. So if you don't want no commercials, then that's one way to do it. Or do nothing. And we love you just the same. We'll see everyone next time.